So I wanted to try something a little new here. Against my better judgment, I'm kind of going off script, which is something I should never do. But here I am. Hopefully this will be a new series, a haul series. There's nothing wrong with thrift hauls or just hauls in general. It's something that I have thought about doing, but my thing is I don't want to feel obligated to make a video every time I buy something, and I also don't want to feel pressured to buy more stuff in the interest of making more videos. So I thought that it would be really fun to talk about the stuff that I'm getting from the library, because I do try to go to the library as often as I can. I grew up in libraries all the time. My mom has been a librarian for almost as long as I've been alive. Libraries are like one of the only places these days you can go to not spend money. And library employees work so hard. The amount of work that you think a librarian does, go ahead and multiply that. The thing that people don't realize about library workers is that they not only do they have to keep up with like the catalog and all that stuff, they're also like, they kind of have to be social workers too, because libraries are open to everybody. Everybody goes and uses library resources, and that's a beautiful thing. That is wonderful. That is what they should be there for. But like the amount of times that like my mom, the stories my mom could tell you would give you nightmares. A lot of the stories would, you know, give you a very hopeful outlook on life, because a lot of the stories are beautiful, encapsulate the beautiful things that happen in libraries. But there's also a whole slew of like this creepy guy, this insane family dynamic. I remember there was one time I went to see my mom at the library, and there was just like a group of people like very clearly tweaking on drugs outside in the like courtyard area. And I was like, you know there's like some like people like tweaking on drugs out in the courtyard? And she was like, yeah, they're allowed to be there if they're not causing any harm. And they weren't. They were just existing. And that's what the library is. Aside from being a place of education and entertainment, a source for both of those things, it's also one of the only places nowadays that you can simply exist. Oh, this is empty. I can still make the video, right? Or should I get more? Let's take a journey to the kitchen, actually. I'm getting the low storage warning on my phone, which means that this day is about to be all kinds of fricked. Very stiff, robotic movements here. like a video game. Okay, actually I need to stop messing around, because I spill coffee like every time I film. Space Jam DVD, Space Jam DVD. I just freed like 18 gigabytes of storage on my, I deleted like 541 videos and pictures. Oh, I'm so backlit right now. This is gonna look atrocious. That is not very warm. Space Jam DVD, Space Jam DVD. We just installed some little cat things for our apartment, for our cats. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I this morning I walked out of my bedroom and immediately saw them, and my heart skipped for a second because I was scared, because I had fear, because it was something mildly foreign to my brain, something out of the ordinary, and my immediate thought was obviously, oh, a monster on the wall. For a real second, I thought monsters were real and lived on this earth, or whatever he says. Now that is a damn fine cup of coffee. This is way better. This is better, right? This angle, the lighting. So yeah, libraries, all that cool stuff. I did want to talk about, so I have sort of a method when it comes to library stuff. Am I in frame? Okay, we're all good. Paranoid as usual. Whoa. Like I don't even know what it was. It was like yo, that guy's a fishing pole. Holy shit. I need to... A dog just walked by. I got distracted. I would close the window, but the lighting is kind of nice. Guy with the fishing pole has a pretty great outfit on. He's pretty dripped out. Fishing is appealing to me, and it's not... I'm a vegetarian. It's not the act of murdering an animal. It's just like the vibe, you know? Really, it's no different from hunting, and I think hunting has abysmal vibes. This is what watching Twin Peaks does to a motherfucker. A mother freaker. What was I... the method at the library. I can... Oh my god, there's a bird. There's a bird on the porch. This window does not exist. I can really only make it through like one regular book per library excursion. So usually I'll get like one regular book that I will plan to read, and then I will get like a couple graphic novels, like 2 or 3 graphic novels, and at least one movie, if not 2 movies. What is this, like a 10-minute intro? Let's stop screwing around and just talk about this stuff, okay? Stop screwing around. First book I want to talk about is Adam Allsuch Boardman's Illustrated History of Filmmaking. This was pretty easy. I just kind of like flipped through it and I was like, yeah, I'll take that home. I had just watched Fire Walk with Me for the first time when I saw this, and it's just crazy to think like the difference between, if you've seen it, this image will flood you with emotions, and if you haven't, it probably looks relatively harmless. It's truly a if you know you know situation. You want to know something embarrassing? There's this in the cover, the inside cover, there's all these pictures of notable people in film throughout history, and then on the other side it has their names. I was going through trying to guess who was who. I mean, there's some obvious ones like George Lucas, Spielberg, Monroe, that's Buster Keaton, that's Bruce Lee. But I wasn't doing very good. I was missing a lot of the ones that I felt like I should know inherently. And somehow, despite this, I knew immediately that this was Kathleen Kennedy. And I didn't think I was right. I was like, that looks like Kathleen Kennedy, but there's so many more notable people. Lo and fucking freaking behold, I mean, it's like, it's nothing you couldn't learn from like YouTube videos and stuff, but it's just like, it's so nice. The art is lovely. And one of the craziest things is how it contextualizes the growth, the rapid growth of the film industry. I mean, we went from color film was introduced, I think, in the like late 20s to early 30s, and within a few years, by the 50s, we already had like 3D in theaters and drive-in theaters and stuff. The earliest recorded footage that we have is from 1888. So that's less than 100 years after that. We already had 3D in the cinema. That's just crazy. That is crazy. One thing I really like about this book is that it dogs on D.W. Griffith, the director of Birth of a Nation. I love, hey. Every book on film history always has to talk about Birth of a Nation, and I get it. I haven't seen it. I don't plan to. I'm not the kind of person who's gonna say that, you know, a true film buff has to watch it at least once. I say don't watch it if you don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it. What I like though is that this book intentionally dogs on D.W. Griffith. It says his film Intolerance flopped so badly that the Associated Studio had to be sold. The Babylon set stood derelict until 1919 when it was burned down. Griffith was financially ruined for the rest of his life. And then it takes a whole page to shout out Oscar Micheaux, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. He was a prolific African-American director around the same time, and it says that he made a film called Within Our Gates that was apparently supposed to be like a direct fuck you to Birth of a Nation. And my question is, if I want to watch Within Our Gates, do I need to watch Birth of a Nation for context? Let me know in the comments if you have the other graphic novel I got was Freiheit, the White Rose graphic novel. The White Rose is something that is interesting to me. I remember learning about it in my homeschool group. Basically, they were a group of German students during World War II who anonymously, they started an organization called the White Rose in direct opposition to Hitler. In direct opposition to Hitler. What they did was they distributed leaflets anonymously. They sent them to random addresses that basically just denounced Hitler in an attempt to rally people against fascism. And ultimately they were executed by the state for distributing paper. My favorite thing about this book is that it actually contains all of the leaflets, translated to English, of course. Thought I could read some of this to you. This is from the first leaflet. Nothing is so unworthy of a civilized nation as allowing itself to be governed without opposition by an irresponsible clique that has yielded to base instinct. It is certain that today every honest German is ashamed of the government. Who among us has any conception of the dimension of shame that will befall us and our children when one day the veil has fallen from our eyes and the most horrible of crimes, crimes that infinitely outdistance every human measure, reach the light of day? If the German people are already so corrupted and spiritually crushed that they do not raise a hand, frivolously trusting in a questionable faith in lawful order of history, if they surrender man's highest principle, that which raises him above all God's other creatures, his free will, if they abandon the will to take decisive action and turn the wheel of history and thus subject it to their own rational decision, if they are so devoid of all individuality, having already gone so far along the road toward turning into a spiritless and cowardly mass, then yes, they deserve their downfall. It's scary. It's scary. You can maybe see why I checked this book out, why this particular story has stuck with me. It's really interesting to learn that they were a lot more religiously motivated than they were politically. If you read the leaflets, they're saying like, how are you as a Christian getting behind this. And it like brings quotes from the Bible. Not necessarily something that I relate to. However, it's refreshing to see that Christianity can lead people in that direction. They're equating Hitler to like a demon. They literally call him like the Antichrist. And I'm not sure how useful that is in a modern context, because words get worn out so quickly nowadays. But I'd recommend looking into it, because yeah. So the actual book that I got is Malcolm X Talks to Young People. This is a series of speeches that he gave at universities in Africa, the UK, and the US, all within like a few months before he was assassinated. So he's at his sharpest. His ideas are at their most developed. I'm actually currently reading this one. I haven't gotten all the way through it yet, but it is so easy to read. Like, he was the maybe I shouldn't burp while I'm talking about Malcolm X. He was such an incredible public speaker. Like, I cannot believe that what I'm reading, the words on the page are words that he was speaking and that people were transcribing. He wasn't, I'm sure, like, you know, I'm not sure what his writing process was like. Maybe some of it was written, but I cannot wrap my head, as someone who very much struggles without a script, I can't wrap my head around, like, that all of this is him talking to crowd, and it's broken up across different speeches, but like all these words are just this man talking, and it's so infinitely readable. Like, I think because it's conversational, it's really easy to read. I have his autobiography, but I haven't read it, so I can't necessarily speak to how it compares to his other work, but I would imagine that this is a really good entry point. Not that he's like dumbing anything down for a younger audience, but I think the fact that it's him talking to young people just intrinsically makes the book sort of less intimidating. I have a couple bookmarks in here because there was some stuff that I wanted to read from it. This is a speech he gave in Ghana in 1964. It is the policy that whenever a black man leaves America and travels in any part of Africa or Asia or Latin America and says things contrary to what the American propaganda machine turns out, usually he finds upon his return home that his passport is lifted. And that was very interesting to read. It's almost a little reassuring. Well, it's simultaneously reassuring and scary, because on the one hand it's reassuring because it points at, like, this passport stuff is not new. They are using this. They have been using this for decades to oppress people, but it's also scary because if you think about, like, the state of civil rights in the 60s for people of color, and now if you apply it to the situation with trans people and their passports, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I've been feeling really drawn to this kind of stuff recently because I feel like trans people need to start doing their homework. They're fighting back homework, you know? And a lot of this stuff, it's not the same, but a lot of it can be applied. There was another thing in here that I wanted to read. This is from the London School of Economics, 1965, a speech he gave there. When a bomb is dropped on an African village, there's no way of defending the people from the bomb. The bomb doesn't make a distinction between men and women. That bomb is dropped on men, women, children, and babies. Now, it has not been in any way a disguised fact that planes have been dropping bombs on Congolese villages all during the entire summer. There is no outcry. There is no concern. There is no sympathy. There is no urge on the part of even the so-called progressive element to try and bring a halt to this mass murder. Why? Because all the press had to do was use that shrewd propaganda word that these villages were in rebel-held territory. Rebel-held. What does that mean? That's an enemy. So anything that they do to those people is all right. You cease to think of the women and the children and the babies in the so-called rebel-held territory as human beings, so that anything that is done to them is done with justification. And the progressives, the liberals, don't even make any outcry. They sit twiddling their thumbs as if they were captivated by this press imagery that has been mastered here in the West also. Again, I think that maybe you can tell where I'm coming from in wanting to read this. I guess also for me, reading Malcolm X is kind of, this is gonna sound so dumb, but it's kind of like reclaiming a part of my education that wasn't really touched on very much. In my homeschool group was, I guess I won't get into it, but basically we spent a lot of time on Martin Luther King Jr. Malcolm X was like not really talked about. If anything, he was criticized by my teachers in the group, by most of them anyways. We were not encouraged to read his books. I didn't even learn that he had an autobiography until I went to college. They say that college is gonna make your kids woke, but really what happens is that they're gonna take an African American literature course and they're just gonna discover a new vein of American history. And if that radicalizes, there's a quote in this where he's like, I'm not condemning America, I'm just trying to look for the truth. And if the truth condemns America, then condemned she will be. Yes. And then of course I had to get some movies. The first one I want to talk about is Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. Hopefully you can see that. I'm not sure what I almost didn't stop talking. I really like Hitchcock because I really resonate with what he had to say about what you see versus what you don't see. And like a lot of that was due to, you know, the Hays Code and you know, limits on all kinds of limits on what you could and couldn't show. But I think he found such an interesting way to instill fear without showing. Oh boy, I'm about to give up. I can feel it. I'm about to give up on this video. I'm gonna feel so bad. I'm gonna feel really bad if I... Nowadays you could say, well, no, it is more scary to see the thing that will give you nightmares. And there is an argument for that, but I feel like there's something to be said for a film that gets under your skin more than it actually scares you and gives you nightmares. Actually getting under your skin is a better way to, I feel like it's more likely to give you nightmares because there's just something like subconsciously off about it. If you are a filmmaker without a budget and you want to make a horror movie, Hitchcock is so valuable because sometimes it's better to not show the monster than to try to achieve a monster effect that you can't. Because if you sincerely want to strike fear into the heart of your audience, a bad effect could take them out of that fear. And when you acknowledge your limitations, as Hitchcock did, you find a way around them, you can still be scary. Like, this movie is, I will say it's not the scariest Hitchcock film I've seen, but it is, the suspense is definitely there. It definitely ramps up towards the end of the film, and it's really, really effective. It goes without saying that, like, this movie is gorgeous. Like, that set makes me want to cry. I was looking at the sky in this, and it didn't even occur to me at first that it was a backdrop because it looked real. The location in this looks real. If you watch it, you might not immediately think that it's a studio. Like, they're indoors, but they are indoors. The characters are so charming. Grace Kelly is like a very clear standout. There's also an entire documentary on this called Rear Window Ethics, and it's a whole documentary about the restoring process of this film and just the film's legacy. It's got some audio of Hitchcock, who sounds pretty intoxicated, an interview with Peter Bogdanovich, actually. His daughter is in there in the documentary. It has Miss Torso from the movie talking about her experience. It's crazy how little regard the industry has for maintaining these films. I mean, this documentary did come out in like 2001 or 2. So maybe it's better, but it's not. It's not. They're not. The stuff doesn't even get put on DVDs now. And I'm sure you know how that makes me feel. Hey, as I was editing, I realized that there was, I don't like looking at myself. I've been filming with the focus. There was just one more thing I wanted to say about Rear Window, and that I think it's, because I feel like I didn't actually talk about the movie. It's really interesting how Hitchcock kind of predicted the male loneliness epidemic. Jimmy, what's his name? L.B. Jeffries. Sure, his leg is broken. Sure, he's pretty much bedridden. But he's also wallowing in his own self-pity. And he has 2 gorgeous women who are like caring for him around the clock, giving him advice that he's just ignoring. So somehow Hitchcock not only understood the male loneliness epidemic, but he also understood that it was self-inflicted. I just think that's interesting. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was Moonage, Daydream, the David Bowie documentary. Can you see? Please tell me that there's not a glare. It says on the back that this is a kaleidoscopic odyssey through David Bowie's brilliance, and that's actually perfect. That perfectly describes what this is. Whatever you are expecting from this is, it's more than that. It is a documentary, but it's also kind of an art film, in that it's an art film and it's a film about art. I'm sure this will not surprise anyone, but Bowie has been very inspirational to me. I won't get into it because, you know, what can be said that hasn't been said already. What I love about this film is that it's a really good argument against the onslaught of musician biopics, because you know, they put so many words in Freddie Mercury's mouth for Bohemian Rhapsody. This whole movie is literally just David Bowie talking to you. Like, I'm pretty sure he's the only voice that provides any narrative through it. And it's just clips of him talking about his work and his artistic philosophy. And it's like, let the artists speak for themselves. They let David Bowie speak for himself, and he's been dead for 9 years at this point. Jesus Christ. I will say it is extremely long, and that's not really a complaint. I like long movies. I think the only issue with that is, despite this movie being as long as it is, there's also plenty of stuff that happened in Bowie's life and his career that isn't touched on in here. And I think the solution would actually be to make it longer, but more broken up, like into parts. Like, if this was like the Beatles anthology documentary, that would have been perfect. I would have liked more, but with more breaks. But ultimately, this is probably the end-all be-all Bowie documentary. It's the only officially sanctioned film on him at this point in time. So don't watch that god-awful Starman movie. Watch Moonage, Daydream. They couldn't even use David Bowie's music in Starman. And they still made it despite his family being like, hey, despite Bowie himself being like, don't make a biopic about me. It's crazy. Because why would you? If you watch this, you know that he had so much to say. Why would you put words in his mouth? I did cry watching this. I absolutely cried. I don't know if you can see very well, but that Life on Mars music video was very, very formative for me. The best parts, my favorite parts are just watching the live performances, the footage from his concerts. It's unbelievable. I've been obsessed with Bowie since I was a kid, and I still am hearing songs in a new context because of watching this. Also, I'm so glad that Ashes to Ashes got some love in this movie. It's not his most underrated song. I do wish that 5 Years had been featured, but I love Ashes to Ashes. Magdalena Bay actually just put out a cover of that song. It's pretty awesome. I saw one comment that said, like, we're this much closer to making the keytar cool again. And honestly, I think they did in that video. I think they kind of one-shotted the keytar into being cool again. What am I talking about? What is your history with the library? What do you gravitate towards in the library? What are some of your fondest library memories? I would love to know. Other than library stuff, I've been reading. Hold it down. I've been reading this book called Jesus for President. This is a Christian book that this is just like a vestige of my family's Christianity, and it's interesting. I'm not gonna recommend it to you because I'm only that far into it. This came out in like 2008 or 9 or so. Yeah, 2008. So like, you know, we just exited the Bush era, all that fun stuff. And basically this book is about like, hey, Christians, maybe American nationalism is kind of far off from what Jesus was saying about idolatry and stuff. Maybe the blind support of politicians is like kind of exactly the opposite of what Jesus said, of what God said. That's the gist of this book. So it is really refreshing to read something from a Christian perspective that is critical of America. So that's why I was interested in reading it. However, I feel like its heart is in the right place, but its head is in the wrong place. For me personally, a lot of it is like, let's look at what the Bible says. And I understand how that would be valuable to a Christian reader. For me, I don't need the Bible to tell me stuff to know what's what. That sounds judgmental. That's not how I meant it. I'm kind of just trying to I'm reading this more just to kind of see what it says, and not so much trying to absorb all of it necessarily. So far, it's a lot of Bible talk, which I guess don't know what I expected. And then in terms of other media, I've been really slacking on music lately. I haven't really been listening to anything new lately. I'm kind of a creature of habit. I tend to just listen to my same liked playlist on streaming, just shuffled all the time. I need to listen to some more albums. The most recent thing I listened to was Chromacopia. I listened to Brat and Chromacopia this year, and some Doechii. I need to get back on the music train. It's bad. What I've been watching lately, my partner and I have been watching SVU. I recognize that it is the definition of propaganda, but period. I'm not gonna make up excuses. It's propaganda, but I don't know. I appreciate that there's some nuance to it. It does help me understand the legal system a little more, and it is fiction, that shouldn't be. I should do real research. Obviously, SVU doesn't speak for, the real world. However, I'm stupid. I don't know, I think it's valuable also to see where their jobs kind of end up screwing themselves sometimes. There are so many moments where the characters want to do right by everyone and they find out that their hands are completely tied, and I just think that stuff is interesting. And also it's fun to just see young burgeoning young actors who hadn't gotten famous yet. We've also we've recently picked back up It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. We had to stop watching it because we realized that it was reminding us too much of the type of people who actually were in the area that we lived in. But now we've moved and we can actually stomach it again. It's so funny. I'm sorry if that's a red flag, but I think it's fucking hilarious. And also, I have been watching Twin Peaks for the first time, and I won't get into it because I think I'm gonna make a whole video talking about Twin Peaks, but that has been consuming my mind a lot. I'm also slowly but surely making my way through Teen Titans. I started that a little while ago because everyone's always said, what are you doing? Why haven't you watched this? And I thought that I would watch an episode or two and I'd be like, yeah, I would have really liked this when I was younger. I'm sad I missed out. It turns out I just really, really like it now. It's so good. Starfire is my favorite character, actually. That also, I was not expecting that. I thought that maybe Beast Boy would be my favorite character, but no, it's actually Starfire. I think maybe it's because it is Princess Bubblegum's voice that something about that is comforting to me. Yeah, libraries are so cool. Please get a library card. Go to libraries. check out as much stuff as you possibly can. Be gracious to librarians. They do a lot. Oh, I also wanted to mention that there's an app called Hoopla. Hoopla is an app that works in conjunction with physical libraries, and how it works is when you get your library card, you can download Hoopla and you can create an account based on your library card information. You just put in your library card and you have access to ebooks and music and movies and shows. Like, it's crazy actually, and you will not pay a single cent. I promise you, 100% free, 100% legal. Look into that stuff because it rules. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully I won't look back at the footage and get embarrassed and delete it all. I don't think that's gonna happen. I powered through. There's a, wait, I can show you the bird. I can show you the bird. He's got, no. He flew away. He had like a gummy worm in his mouth. I'm sorry you had to miss that and then hear about it.